Alright everybody, what's going on? It's your boy Tyger, and as you can see, it's another episode of In the Field, but we're not actually in the field. Instead, we're here at my home office, and I've been promising for a little bit to go over MotoVlogging with the Sony Action Cam. As you can see, this is the one that I use, the Sony Action Cam AS100V. It's I really like this model. I think it has a lot of improvements over the previous sets that I was using. I've been using the Sony Action Cam models pretty much since they've come out. And I know a lot of people have done videos using the GoPro, the Hero 3 Black Editions and whatnot. And those are all fine and good. I'm not over here championing one over the other. I think whichever one you're using right now, if you enjoy that one, stick with it. There's plenty of videos and stuff out there for the GoPros. I haven't seen as many that I really think hit the mark on how to properly use the Action Cam for motovlogging, which is the reason why I came up with this one. That said, I do like the Sony Action Cam for the fact that it has great video stabilization. I love the sound output that I get out of it, whether I'm using the mic or not. Right now I'm not using a mic. I'm using a couple of the handy cam mount actually with this and the tripod. So I have two of them of the AS100s. I have a couple of the older models that I'll occasionally use depending on what I'm going out there for, whether I'm like doing a videotaping some folks doing stunts, or if I need a stationary video cam, or if I'm just doing a ride. Normally on the rides I use the 100s and just kind of switch back and forth between multiple views. That said, it's a whole lot. One of the things that we're going to be talking about is just how to set up your helmet, and I'm just going to show you what I did with my layout. I think after trial and error and kind of messing around with a couple of different mounts, which by the way is another reason why I went with the Sony, is because the mounts were so inexpensive. Most of the ones that I saw, I think the most expensive one was the Handycam mount, the one that actually switches it to give you the viewfinder, and basically you can use it like a handheld camcorder. That one probably ran me about $100. Same thing with the wrist-mounted remote control. That was about a little over $100. Those two are probably the most expensive accessories that they had for them that I picked up. That said, here's my helmet. I'm using a 707, the Vendetta 3. Really like this helmet. It's just, I believe it's just mostly because of the fit and the quality of the materials. I really like those. As you can see, I have my my Scholar Rider G9X on this side, so I went ahead and went, instead of having my camera on the left side, I went with the right. So my camera is actually mounted up here on the side. I know a lot of people do the front mounted setups for their GoPros. For me, just didn't make sense with the Sony, and I'm sure some people have figured out a way to make that work. It just, for me, I thought it was going to be better to do the side mount, especially because if you don't already know, the Sony Action Cam has a 170-degree range. So if you move it off the side of your head just a little bit and it's forward enough, you'll be able to actually get the full range, and it's not too bad. And with the stabilization, it gives it doesn't have that weird floatiness. It tends to give some people motion sickness. It gives you a good quality video that looks like it's right at eye level. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is this is not the typical mount. What you're seeing here is what they called their, I want to say that it was their helmet mount. I'll be showing the information on the bottom, as well as screenshots of the mounts and how much they run, and I'll make sure to throw that in the bottom of the videos in case you want to jump on Amazon or whatever to go pick one up. But the thing I liked about it is that they had these two tethers. You had the mount here on the side. You got a tether that's going to run and then remount up here on the back. Make sure you follow the instructions, otherwise you're going to mess around and find yourself with this mounted up and have the cable just kind of free hanging. What this does is allows that a lot of these 3M double-sided tapes that actually mount these onto the helmet, some of them tend to be loose. I did notice that this was a lot thicker than the traditional mounting pieces that they use. Hopefully they're going to put this with everything, because these thicker pieces actually just tend to adhere better to the helmet. But say for instance, for whatever reason, these get older and it pops off. Now you have another anchor attached to the back of the helmet, so the camera will just swing back to the back of your helmet. You won't just lose it. Another cool thing about it is this little clip here, which I'll show you a little bit more about once I actually connect the helmet piece on. But just find a good place, along the side of your helmet. This may actually work in the lower areas as well, but I just felt it was better a little higher up, close to my eye level. So there you have the mount for where I'm going to actually sit the camera up. I'll show you why it's a little bit trickier than just buying a mount right off the shelf here in just a second. But one of the other things I wanted to show you is how I did my mic. There's been other videos I've seen about this. I think I've seen at least 2 other videos that decided to mount the wiring for the helmet inside the helmet, but there was one in particular I just saw a couple of days ago that kind of helped me make some little adjustments. I'll be sure to give you a shout out by throwing it up in the video. Sorry, I can't just think of the name off the top of my head. I've been watching a lot of videos recently. But basically what happens is I pulled all the padding out from the inside, and actually my connection isn't hooked up here, but what I'll do is I'll tuck the wire in on the inside. But this will hook into my camera. And it's just basically just running into the inside side padding. So I just pulled those paddings off, hooked the first part of my connector here. This is the only bad part about the 707. The 707's padding is really tight in there. So when I end up, here, let me give you a better shot at it. It's really tight in there. So this connector piece here, the female connector for my my microphone, is pretty big. So if I was to try to push that and tuck it away in there, it'll actually snap loose again. So what I'm gonna end up doing is I have a friend of mine who has a clip, and I can clip and basically press that down onto the padding to keep it down. But also the mic itself is heavy enough where it'll pull this down as well and just keep it out of the way. But the wiring runs all the way through the inside padding in here. So I just pulled the side padding off, basically started with the cable here in this position, dropped it down and wrapped it back up, and then just put all the excess up here in the crown of the helmet. So inside the crown of the helmet, that's where I actually keep all the excess padding. Hopefully I can adjust this shot here, so forgive me if I have to make a couple adjustments there. But as you can see, it's tucked away nice and neat. You don't really see a whole lot of the wiring, and it doesn't get in the way. I don't feel it on the top of my head or anything like that. And then I worked it back down to the other side of the padding here, and then just brought the loose cable out to the side. And that loose cable will basically line up with the bottom of where my camera will go. I'll plug it in right there. All right, now helmet's already straightened out, right? Got the mounts up, got the cable going. What do we do for mics? Well, let me grab my original one. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of the Sony products, so I started off with this ECM CS3. This was the original mic I used, and this was a cabled mic. I didn't initially have this cable that was running through the helmet. Instead, I would just pull this out whenever I wasn't motovlogging, and would just clip it right here around that nose, you know, fog guard there. And that was fine. That worked perfectly fine. The problem that I ran across was just the cabling. The cabling would drop down and hang out the bottom of the helmet, kind of get a little annoying, tapping against my neck. So this is great and all, but screw that. Instead, what I just recently picked up, and this was really affordable actually, was the DC70, which is another Sony microphone. This one's designed more for like business recorders, little handheld recording systems, which is the reason why I had to go ahead and get this mic cable. I will warn you, this is inexpensive. It cost me only about $39, but it didn't come with the cable itself. So I had to buy the cable separately and run that through the helmet. So just know that when you get this, you do need to go ahead and buy a female to male audio auxiliary cable to go along with this. But I did like the fact that it came with, you know, the little wind guard. The mic itself is a stereo microphone. Both the left and right sides are on the same side of the mic, which I really like. Some of the other ones that I've seen people use actually had the mic set sideways, and it had each one had the left and right side. Whereas on this one, as you can see, there's your right and left up there. All right, this is the right, this is the left. That gives you your stereo sound. I like that, and it also had this articulating head, so I can actually adjust it like that. So basically, all I'm doing is I'll take it. Just plug it in, and it'll sit right there. All right, and that keeps it out of the way. And I'll tell you what, I tried it a couple times, tested it out. The audio quality on this thing is excellent, especially for a $39 mic. You really can't beat that. All right, so now there's your mic cables, your helmet set up, right? How do we get this thing on here in a way that works. And that was the part that really, it was beating me up quite a bit. I was trying and experimenting and kind of messing around. And basically what it came down to is it's going to require you buying 2 mounts and then putting those 2 together. Basically, the one that comes with the Sony Action Cam is just going to be like a plastic protection housing, basically. That's not going to work. That's not going to work for what you need, at least for motovlogging. If you're just going to do videos and you're not actually doing any audio with it, that's all well and good. The problem with those things is it doesn't have an area where you can access the bottom of the camera. Now, there's lots of videos out there that tell you about how to modify that housing so you can drill holes into it or crack the bottom of the casing so that you can get a mic into there. But that requires you taking the door off. It requires you using a drill. All this stuff I didn't want to do. I wanted to keep the original housing as strong as possible. Plus, I reuse those things. So I wanted to find a way that maybe I can take existing units, put those together to make something that's going to work for this. And I think I've accomplished that. And that's what we're going to share with you right now. The first thing you're going to need is this. This is their skeleton case. The skeleton case is designed so that you can basically mount it flush up against something. Hence this little bracket here they have on the side, and you can move this just about anywhere. I will tell you this, don't place it here on the bottom. I did a little upside down mounting under the bottom of my cowl, and I've actually lost 2 of these cameras in the process of that. This is not the strongest location, at least for this one, to mount flush. But the skeleton housing is actually designed so that this opening here, you can use it to open these doors, place it underneath there, and now you have access to all your cables. Now, I could just try taking this little unit here on the side. You can actually remove this, and I can show you here. Open it up, and it's got these little push clips right here on the side. My big gorilla fist. All right, so I can pop this thing out, and I can put it on this side, and then just mount it flush onto the side of there. But here's the problem. It's a little too close to the helmet, a little too far back, and I don't get the ability to make any kind of adjustments. And for me, I want to be able to adjust it on the fly as I ride. One of the things I like to do sometimes is actually have the camera facing backwards. Mostly when I have like my backpack riding with me. And if you've seen the videos with me and my daughter riding together, then you know what I mean. So that's not going to work. This bracket, not going to work. Throw that off to the side. One of the cool things it does come with is a secondary bracket. And this bracket is used mostly for things like tripods. But for us, this is going to be perfect. So what I'm going to do is, you slide that in. It just kind of sits in like this. Push it in place. And there you go. There's your skeleton bracket. All right. And now this down here is the actual spot where it's going to screw in. All right. So my camera's going to fit right there. And mind you, the AS100V does have splash, it's splash proof, so a little water or whatnot won't damage it. If you're worried about flying rocks, they do have a little plastic covering that you can put right here over the lens that'll clip in and tie on. That'll be perfectly fine. I don't necessarily use that. I probably should, but I do have insurance on my camera, so it's no big deal. But that's how it's going to sit. Actually, even to be a little more accurate, let's open this thing back up. I'm going to open the doors down here. I only need to open one. This is where your microphone is, right here on the bottom. If you see that red open right there. The secondary one here is for the USB. That's where you're going to charge it for anybody who's still thinking about buying the camera but doesn't have it already. But yeah, you'll just plug your audio there. So I want to have the door open. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit this here, dropping the door down into that opening in the bottom. So what we want to do is try to get the door just right down there. You can see that. All right, there's your door. Lock it in place, nice and locked, right? Cool. There you go. Now, this is number 2. This is your mount number 2. Where's number 1? Number 1 was this helmet mount that was over here that came with this stuff, right? Well, this isn't the only part that comes with it. It actually comes with this little piece right here. So you have a round unit here that actually has a little push button on it that allows me to rotate it up and down. So I can just push this piece here, rotate it up and down. Anybody that's familiar with the Action Cams probably recognizes this clip. This is the clip that would connect it to the mounts. So you just connect that using a little screw in the back. You just need a quarter. Take the quarter, screw it in there, lock it in place. That's how you connect these two pieces together. And then make sure the clip, the front part of the clip, this is the front part, okay? Don't do it the other way around. And I'll show you why a little later on. But this is the front part. And it'll basically sit. And this is tricky when you're doing it with the camera, trying to make sure everybody can see. But hopefully you can see that. It's going to sit in just like that. All right. And then I can always just squeeze and pull it back, pop that bad boy out. But and you want to try to put this stuff on before you put the helmet on. Believe me, I've tried it a couple of times, and maybe I don't know if the GoPro folks got one hand operation with this stuff, but I don't. But sliding it into place. There it is, it's locked into place. And remember this little clip I was telling you I was going to show you a little later? That slides actually in between the mount and the clip. And that's an extra lock to hold it in place. And trust me when I tell you, that right there, that's not going anywhere. That tape wasn't given. I've had this on here now, I want to say 4, maybe 6 months now. Not going anywhere. It's on there tight. That lock is holding this in place, and this is going to help with that weight that you're going to have with the camera. All right. So let me go ahead and take this off. It's got a little push switch. Unclip that. Now, this was the part of the helmet mount that came with this setup that I used to connect it to the helmet, and I also had the second element, which is our skeleton housing with the clip that's in there for the tripod. What I'm going to do is putting these two together, these two separate mounts, rather than the traditional mount, or with the AS100 it actually has a little screw-on piece that you can put on the bottom to use it for tripods. Forget all those. Put these two pieces together. And now, and I'm going to do this by, hopefully you can see this pretty good. Again, another one of those quarter screws. Most of the screws on here, you can either use a quarter or a Phillips head screwdriver, and you'll see what I mean here in just a second once I finish screwing this one in, and hopefully everybody can get a good view of this. You can actually move this in and out to move it further away from your helmet. I try to typically keep it as far away from the helmet as possible. It does give you a little bit of leeway where you can rotate this a little bit, but you can see the little slot right there. This screw can move all the way down into that space right there. So you can move it a little further away from the actual helmet if you so need. That's a screw for a quarter. Here, this is our locking unit that keeps it, allows you to move it, basically move the camera up and down. Inside there's actually a screwdriver opening. Hopefully you can see that. Let me see if I can adjust my light here so you can see it. Right there. That's for screwdrivers, all right? So once you actually put this in place, you can take a screwdriver and lock that in place, and that'll help keep this from moving around so much. All right, but for right now, I'm going to just use the finger locks. The little wings here on the side to lock that in place. But there you have it. This isn't perfectly straight, but hey, you get the idea. There you go. Now you have an open housing. I can still see my screen, still got access to my buttons. I got access to the lower panel down here so I can plug in my microphone. And now I can actually adjust it up and down so I don't have to be worried that maybe the first time I set this, it wasn't perfectly in line with my eye view. This is a setup that allows you a lot of flexibility. So you can move it back and forth, up and down, flip it completely backwards, the whole nine. So with this, now, all I need to do is hook it up to the helmet. Add my clip. There we go. And remember, little open door. Take my cable here. Plug that in the mic. And there you have it. And because I have this tucked in through my padding, I can actually tighten it by, shoving a little bit more of that back into the helmet. And then I got my mic up here. And mind you, this is a little loose, but that's mostly because of the padding being so tight, and also because of the head of this the male cable is a little wider than which you would traditionally find. I noticed that this quality cable I was a big fan of. It helps produce a better sound on it, so I'm willing to deal with little side setbacks here and there. But I'm gonna eventually clip that down and tuck it basically into the padding. If you have one with a smaller head, you should be able to also tuck and hide the whole head unit into there, and then just have your mic sit off the side. That said, that's the setup right there, man. The camera setup, we got the mic hook in here. I can press and adjust this if I need to. Give me higher or lower shots, especially if you do stunt videos and things like that. That's perfect because you can line that up to aim lower down, pop your wheelies. It's in line, perfect. Audio's good, and I can remove the mic whenever I want to without having to worry about the cable itself, having to record the cable, because all I have to do is just tuck this back into the padding. So I can just pull that out, take off this unit. One thing I will suggest you do, get one of these extra clips. If you have an extra clip that you're not actually connecting it to your camera, you can pop that clip in and then just use the lock and lock it in, so the lock it and just hanging there dangling or tapping against your helmet, because that can get a little annoying when you're riding. And plus you don't want anything just free flowing out there that might get hooked onto something. I never really had to worry about this cable, but hey, if you are concerned about it, whatever, you can always clip this shorter or tie it differently, whatever. Also, if you do make a mistake with how you set this up, there's a little knot right here on the top of this cable. You can always untie the knot and record it that way, and then retie the knot. Or cut the cable shorter if you want to do that and then retie the knot. But I don't mind having a little bit of leeway. It just allows the camera to fly to the back of my helmet in case the tape gives up. That said, that's my setup. And if you've seen the last video I put up, there's one for Taco Tuesday that was a lot of fun, and I did another one, the Where Have You Been. Both of those have been using this new setup, so I'm really enjoying it. I think the audio quality that comes off the mic is great. I'm a really big fan of the Sony Action Cam AS100V. I think it's quality stuff. And if you like this video, then you know what I'm talking about, because this is also being recorded with the AS100V. The only other thing I can suggest is grabbing one of these. The Live View remote. There's a newer one that allows you to go back and play back the video and stuff. This is an older model. This just lets me watch it while I'm recording, but it also allows me in one button press to control all my cameras that are set up. So with this, I can have two cameras set up on my bike, press one button, and it'll turn all my cameras on to record together, so it's already time synced, so I don't have to worry about line up time or clapping in front of the camera or none of that stuff that you may sometimes see in a lot of videos. That said, that's about it, man. That's my setup. Hopefully that helps you out. If you use it and you like it, or if you got some other suggestions, definitely drop it down in the comments. And as usual, this is In the Field. Hopefully I'll see you guys out there on too. God bless, ride safe, and of course, check us out at www.motomilitant.com for all your gear and apparel needs. And subscribe, like, comment, the whole nine here on the YouTube page. Give us a good rating, man. I appreciate it. Until then, take care. See y'all on 2.